Another important concept we need to understand when it comes to HTTP and Angular is the concept of HTTP interceptors. So you can see on the left, we have an Angular application, and that application is making HTTP requests. What you have to understand is that the interceptor sits in between the requests being made from the Angular application in the outside world or the internet. And you can see here that I have the interceptor in the middle, and the HTTP requests coming from the Angular application will go through the interceptor before they make it to the internet. And what that means is that you can intercept every request that's being made, and you can modify this request in any way or shape or form that you want. And you can already see how useful interceptors are in Angular. And it's usually used in security. So for instance, they can add some authorization token or some headers in the request before the request goes out. They can modify the body of the request before the request goes out. And whenever the HTTP response comes back, it will also go through the interceptors. And that's why we have the two errors here, one going out and one coming into the Angular application. So when you make a request, it goes through the interceptor, so you can manipulate that request in any way you want and then send this request out to the internet. And when the response comes back, you can also look into that response and you can modify that response before you give it back to the service, which ultimately will give it back to some component that's calling it. So the idea of interceptors, it's really pretty simple, but they're very useful and they're used heavily in Angular to manage like security, HTTP errors, and a bunch of other use cases. So we're gonna go ahead and build an interceptor, and we're gonna implement some use cases of when you might want to use an interceptor.